Good morning, students. Hopefully you have gone to the previous video and you have understood the concepts. This is in continuation with the video. Today we'll be understanding with respect to mechanism of breathing in humans. Breathing occurs involuntarily, but its rate is controlled by the respiratory center of the brain. Now, breathing is an involuntary process. It means it is not under our control, but the breathing rate is controlled by the respiratory center of the brain, and this respiratory center of the brain is found in medulla. A part of the medulla is responsible for controlling the breathing rate in human beings. Now, the space of thoracic cavity increases or decreases by outward and inward movement of the ribs caused by the external intercostal and internal intercostal muscles. This action is also assisted by contraction and expansion of the diaphragm. The inhalation and exhalation of the air takes place continuously in the respiratory system. Now, what do I mean by these 3 points? Now, look at this particular diagram. I have just drawn one of the lungs over here. The external and internal intercostal muscles are lining the ribs. External intercostal muscles are lining the ribs outside, whereas internal intercostal muscles are lining the ribs inside. Now, this diaphragm is attached to the ribs, okay, and during inhalation we see that diaphragm contracts. It means it is being pulled outwards, as well as the ribs are also being pulled outwards. So what happens to the volume in the chest cavity or in the lungs? It increases as the ribs are being pulled outward and diaphragm also contracts. We see the space in the lungs increases, whereas in your exhalation we see the reverse is happening. Here the ribs move inwards and the diaphragm. Now we will try to understand the activity. For this particular activity we need 2 test tubes, and we will name these 2 test tubes. One of the test tubes will name it as A, the other one will name it as B. Okay, and in both these test tubes we are adding lime water, equal amount of lime water. Lime water is nothing but aqueous solution of calcium hydroxide, and in one of the test tube we are placing the syringe, and this syringe is attached to the rubber tube, whereas in the other test tube we are placing a bent glass tube. Now we are this particular syringe, we are filling it up with air, and then what we are doing is we are pumping this air that is filled inside the syringe onto this lime water. Okay, now here we see that it takes a very long time for the lime water to turn milky. But whereas over here, this particular end of the test tube we are placing onto our mouth. Okay, and we are blowing it. Now when we are blowing it, what happens is here the lime water will turn milky at a much faster pace. Now we know that air has got some amount of carbon dioxide. We have air is a mixture of gases and it has got the presence of carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide is present in minute amount, so it takes a longer time for it to turn milky. But whereas here we know that at the time of respiration the food is broken down and carbon dioxide is given out, and this carbon dioxide is exhaled out. So, and when we are blowing we see that carbon dioxide is given out through these it passes through this bent tube, and it immediately turns this lime water milky. Now this experiment helps us to prove that at the time of respiration we see that carbon dioxide is being generated. Now respiratory pigments take up oxygen from the air in the lungs and carry it to the tissues which are deficient in oxygen before releasing it. Now what do I mean by this statement? Now oxygen has to be transported to the tissues which are deficient in oxygen. So how is this transport brought about? It is brought about by hemoglobin. Hemoglobin has high affinity for oxygen. Hemoglobin binds to oxygen. Hemoglobin is found in the RBC, and this takes it to the oxygen. Hemoglobin takes the oxygen to the deficient tissue, oxygen deficient tissue, and supplies it to that. Now, how about carbon dioxide? Carbon dioxide is soluble in water, so it is mostly transported in the dissolved form in our blood. Now, hemoglobin does not have much affinity towards carbon dioxide. So, carbon dioxide is transported by means of blood. We know that blood has got some amount of water, and carbon dioxide is water soluble. So, carbon dioxide is transported by means of blood. Yes. Thank you.